Hi everybody, this is Jason Campbell and welcome to this month's episode for Mindvalley Membership. What we have today is actually someone who's going to be talking about something that touches not only on the concept of impact but also personal growth. We're going to be breaking a lot of rules here and we're going to challenge a lot of things within personal growth that most people aren't even bold enough to talk about. We actually had a full set agenda and we said, you know what, if we're going to be talking about bold, being more courageous, we actually need to start talking about the topics that most people decide not to talk when it comes to personal growth. We are going to address them head on. And I'm so excited to have Franziska Ezeli on the show to talk about this. And to tell you the truth, she has such an amazing biography that I would not even do justice if I would just read it to you. So I want to actually pull it up and read it to you fully so I can actually do justice to the amazingness of this woman. Franziska is a maverick entrepreneur, leading marketing and brand strategist, speaker, author, and co-founder of Basic Bananas, Ocean Lovers, Your Socially, and The Business Hood. In 2013, Franziska was awarded the Young Entrepreneur of the Year in Australia and was recognized for her innovation, creativity, and philanthropic involvement. Swiss-born Australian, she is being known to being a true visionary, doing things a little bit differently, her irreverence and thought leadership. She has a rare combination of being both extremely strategic and creative, which makes her a powerful thought leader in the business world. I couldn't even improvise this. This is amazing. Franziska is the author of Bananas About Marketing and Perception, and we're going to show you these books in a moment, and she contributes to amazing publications including Huffington Post. Featured on Inc., Forbes, Business Insiders, Virgin In-Flight Entertainment, the Sydney Morning Herald, The Age, Smart Company, Dynamic Business Magazine, BRW, 2UE Channel 9. Franziska, you have an amazing biography. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. And first of all, also thank you so much for sort of throwing everything out, because that's actually never happened to me in an interview where we prepare and we were so prepared and then we have breakfast. We're like, how about we just go bolder?
Yes. And
thank you for doing that.
What we really wanted to do is be as real and authentic as possible, because I think that was kind of the concept of being bold, is us being our true self in the process.
Yeah.
So now I gave you the beautiful introduction, but now what I'd love to hear more about you is, before we get into the meat, we're going to talk about the rules. We're going to talk about the systems for living. We're going to talk about the models of reality. But first off, I want to talk about you. I've already listed all your amazing achievements, and we're going to be talking about being bold, being more courageous. So I'd love to know, what got you on this journey? What got you into this topic of, helping entrepreneurs, helping individuals in all aspects of life?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. And sometimes when I reflect on this, I think there has to have been a moment in my life where I sort of stepped out of not being bold into boldness, and I certainly do when I think about my life journey. So, growing up in Switzerland, especially, it's quite rules driven, and there's a lot of norms to follow, and you sort of grow up not questioning things too much because you just do as you're told. And I was never really good at that. I was always a little bit of a rebel and questioning and sort of maybe breaking a little bit of rules and not really being very good with authority. But then I had this, I still followed the whole path of going to university and doing my double master degree in political science and marketing and making my parents happy doing political science. And so then about 9 years ago, I was doing my thing. I was working in advertising and had a great career, was doing strategy for some big corporates, and it was great, but I definitely had this inner conflict of feeling that I'm not being bold enough in my life. I'm not standing up enough. I'm not doing everything that I possibly can in my life to make an impact. And so this one thing happened in my life that shook me like crazy. And it was 9 years ago. I was living in Sydney, so I moved to Sydney, Australia from Switzerland about 10, 11 years ago. And I had this, it was Sunday morning. I remember the whole scene. Sunday morning, I just came back from surfing. I surf most days in Sydney, and came back, was sitting on the floor there, and then my phone rang, and it was an unknown number. And usually back then, unknown meant some of my foreign friends are calling me. It was my brother. I have one brother, he's older. And he called me to tell me that our father had just passed away at age 58. And it was one of these moments in my life where I can't believe it, of course, like that this is happening. He was completely healthy, he had a heart attack, and he passed away really quickly. And even now, thinking how my poor brother had to call his little sister to share this news. And then this was sort of the moment, I believe, if I had to pin it down to one moment in my life, when did I step up into lifting my own standards, into being more bold, into going after what I believe is right. And that was probably the moment, because the one question that I asked myself then, and I think it's such a cool question, I still use this 8-9 years later, is if I was to die right now, would I be happy with what I'm doing? And the answer was no. No, I'm not being bold enough. I'm sort of hiding a little bit. I'm doing my career thing because that's what I'm meant to be doing. I make enough money as a strategist, but I'm not making the impact that I want to make. So because the answer was no, I left my career. I started my own businesses. The first one was Basic Bananas. You mentioned that a little bit earlier. And then from there, I just stepped more into boldness and being more real and honest with myself. And that one question has been guiding me all throughout the last sort of 8-9 years is, if I was to die right now, would I be happy? And it's really funny, and it almost sounds a little bit crazy, but I was in New York, I think about a year ago with a friend, and I was sitting in a taxi with one of my girlfriends, and I just said to her, I turned around and I had this question silently in my mind, and I just said out loud to her, I said, hey, Suzanne, if I died right now, I'd be happy. And she's like, what's up? Are you dying? What's going on? I'm like, no, I'm completely healthy and I'm all good, but I'm at a point in my life where I am doing everything that I possibly can to say, hey, I've tried.
Well,
I've tried.
I'd want to ask, like, what was the feeling, or how would you find yourself in that situation where you asked that question and the answer was no? Can you go back to that moment?
Yes, totally. It was like, I can't breathe. And it's like, and it's really interesting because even up to that moment of when that happened, my dad leaving so quickly, I had already a little bit of feeling inside me that I'm not being bold enough, but I didn't really know why or what's going on. I was working in advertising. But then the feeling was clear that I had to shift a few things. You can't change your whole life all in one go, because then it's a little crazy. But I just knew, okay, one thing I can do already now is just change career and do my own thing and take what I know from advertising and marketing and bring that into the small business world. And so that's the first thing that I did. However, I did not tell most of my Swiss friends and family. My mom didn't know, my brother didn't know, because in my culture it would be too crazy to just leave your career. And I know my mom, and especially my brother, he's very protective and he's super intelligent. He would have said, no, you lost your marbles, you're going to go back, get a job. You know, you can't just do your own thing. And so because I knew that their beliefs would have really stuffed up my stories in my own head, because I was already not sure if I can actually do this. My story in my head was like, I am going to do this, but the doubt, of course, is always a little bit there in the beginning. Can I actually do this? I have the knowledge, but can I actually build a business around this? And so I didn't tell people that I knew would sort of enforce my disempowering stories until about 8 months in, when the business was already up and running. And now it's a multi-million-dollar business. So Basic Bananas now, we have 27 people employed, and it's come from believing in what I got and telling myself the right stories.
Wow. And I'm assuming that because where you were working in advertising, you weren't in a terrible place. You were probably doing really well, and that probably made it even harder.
Yeah, I wasn't in a terrible place, but in my heart, I think I was. I think in my heart, I almost knew from the beginning, is this it? You know, we all have this life. And I watched a movie on the plane. I think it was the Jackie Kennedy movie. And there was one guy in there who said, I think it was the priest. He said to Jackie, you know, most people go to bed and he said, I do this too. I go to bed and I think, is this it? Is this it? And then I wake up in the morning and I'm sort of, yeah, okay, cool, this is it. And I do my thing and I'm happy. And we often ask these questions. I think most of our viewers, if you're completely honest with that, you would have moments in your life where you go, is this it? Like, is this life? Am I doing this thing? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? And it's normal. I think it's normal. So I already had this before, when I was always a bit happy, but also a little bit like, is this it? Yeah.
And so from that moment, it's a catalyst. You make some changes. You start asking that real quick.
And now I don't ask myself that much anymore, because this is it for me.
Nice.
Like, in this lifetime, I'm giving everything that I got, and this is sort of it. Yeah, it's cool.
What I'm particularly excited here is that one of the systems we're going to be covering later in the episode is actually going to give you a step-by-step process on how to start asking these questions and challenging these perceptions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what I want to dive into is we actually had, initially we were going to talk about concepts about, you know, self-worth and things that we typically have actually covered in consciousness engineering in the membership area here.
And there's some great courses on this, so I think we can take it
we definitely,
to a whole new level. Yeah.
we can actually, like, we took it, we parked it, because we realized we're doing an episode here on bold, and we wrote down all the rules that most people don't even challenge because it's comfortable not to even think about them.
No, and nobody tells you that you need to challenge them. It's sort of like, yeah, this is common sense, of course.
So we're going to open up right now to start talking about these new models of reality and models of reality, and we're going to break some of the biggest rules in personal growth in a bold way.
I love it.
Are you ready?
I'm born ready. No, I'm probably not, but I'm totally ready.
We are super ready, and this is going to be amazing. So the first thing we're going to talk about, there's a rule that says you should always take the advice of the experts.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's exactly a rule, but we just do. You pay someone, and I've definitely paid mentors a lot of money that tell you things that you should do, shouldn't do. And of course, normally we're born, we're conditioned as kids to take the advice of our parents. They say, do this, don't do this. And that's how we go through life. It's like, yeah, no, okay, yes, I'm doing what you tell me, especially if you pay someone. But that's very dangerous. That's very dangerous because there are so many people out there, especially now with social media. Everyone wants to give you advice. Men meaning well. It's usually people that mean really well and they tell you, hey, why don't you do this? But maybe that's not the best advice. And I remember, looking back, there are so many pieces of advice that I have been given even from really high level mentors that I haven't taken. And one particular one that I'll share now because I think it's a good one to share. When I first started my first business, Basic Bananas, I'd never run a business before, had no idea. I came from advertising. I knew how to market, I knew how to advertise, I knew how to sell, but I didn't know really all the rest of business. So I hired a business mentor, this really amazing woman. And she said, okay, first thing, Franziska, I'm going to advise you is do not call a business Basic Bananas. He's like, nah, do not call a business Basic Bananas. And I said, Sharon, I'll take most of your advice, but that's piece of advice I'm not taking. I'm calling this business Basic Bananas because I know in my heart that I can make this work. It's a bit out there, it's different, and I know branding. And so I didn't take her advice, and now when I see her, she's like, I'm so glad you didn't listen to this one piece of advice. So I always say, take all advice with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more in the course a little bit more about how do you actually know what to take on and what not.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I find myself often in these scenarios. Every time I make, let's say, a bold decision, or I take kind of an initiative or a priority in a certain direction, that's always the time that I hear all the noise of people saying there's a different way to do it. And it makes me hesitate, and it makes me actually very anxious because then I say, okay, let's say, for example, I say, we're going to do only one product, and then suddenly all the advice comes out and tells me, no, you should have a ton of products. Or if I go and say, no, we're going to have a ton of products, then people say, no, you should have just one. So it always seems like this advice comes after I've made a decision that makes me hesitate. So how would we be able to manage that?
Yeah, well, first I want to quickly share something that just popped in my mind because I think it's popped in for a reason, but I think it was maybe Elon Musk or one of these epic guys, or even maybe Peter Diamandis. I think it was Elon Musk. He said that before a breakthrough idea, it's usually a crazy idea. So just before you have a breakthrough, it's usually your idea is like, you are crazy. You are crazy. And then the next day, it's a breakthrough. So what was your question? How do you overcome your hesitation?
Yeah.
I think it's really just about practicing to trust your own intuition. And I know that this is a little bit maybe woo-woo or you guys probably have courses on this, how to trust more your intuition, but this is something I had to learn big time because as a Swiss, you usually follow checklists. I remember my brother. I would sit there with my brother and he would debate which country should he visit, Vietnam or Thailand. So how did he decide? He would make a list. Here's Vietnam, here's Thailand, pros, cons. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, bro, why don't you just go somewhere? Why don't you just pick something, just, feel it? It's like, feel it what? Feel what? Like, are you crazy? So I grew up in a society that we don't feel. So you have to just practice it. And when I first heard about this whole intuition game, and when I first realized that most successful leaders are really good at tapping into their intuition and trust, I knew, okay, I'm going to have to lift my game. I have to be more bold, trusting my intuition. And I just started doing games that people told me about, like when I'm going to a parking lot, I think, okay, my parking spot is going to be on the left, 3 parks away from the elevator. Like just make it up. And then sometimes it was right, and sometimes it's like intuition apparently. So I just gamified this thing. Or I would stand in front of a lift, there's maybe 4 doors, and I click the button. I'm like, this lift here is going to come first. Like just like gamify the whole thing. Now I don't do it anymore because I think I developed more intuition, but it's just starting to just trust yourself more and usually just going with the first thing that comes into your mind. That's usually the thing.
It's funny, there's actually a passage from Napoleon Hill that's very similar. He says, every time I want to go park somewhere, I always imagine that he has an imaginary butler. I think he calls him Charlie.
Oh, really?
And he says, Charlie, make sure there's a spare spot right in front of the bank when I'm going there. And he talks about the exact same thing, and I've practiced that as well.
The parking ferry, I call it the parking ferry.
The parking ferry.
Yes. I have a parking ferry. Every time I pull up somewhere, I have a parking ferry. But I just tell myself, or when I'm with someone, a friend, and I'm driving, I'm like, hey, and they say, hey, we should park a little bit further away from the venue if you go to a concert. I'm like, no, because I got a parking ferry. And it doesn't always work, it's a little bit of pimping too, but usually it works.
But for the times that it works, it creates all the energy and expectation that you would need to start trusting your intuition.
Just start trusting it.
And, we wanted to cover this one first because, here we are being experts on a call telling you what you should be doing.
Don't take our advice. Don't take our advice.
Take it as kind of a data point, right? And that's something that a lot of people, like I call it like the last speaker on stage syndrome. And I've been involved, like I do events at Mindvalley, and like I've seen a lot of people that the last speaker they'll see on stage is the advice that they will follow until they feel lost, and then they'll go to another seminar, and it's almost like an addiction.
It's a totally like seminar junkie addiction.
Yes, and I've seen it, and I've actually seen it do terrible things for people. And so what we wanted to leave as a really strong kind of rule to break in a new model of reality is this: like take each of the advice you get from experts as a data point, but question it, research it, right? Like
and just trust. So I actually have a new book coming out, and the title, it's a working title at the moment, but the title at the moment is Don't Take My Advice. Because the book is full of advice, but don't take it. Only take what's suitable for you. And it's the same with the rules that we're going through now. Just take what's working for you.
Exactly. So luckily, people that are in the membership are familiar with the concept of consciousness engineering, which is Vishen telling you to challenge all of the rules. So again, we're here as experts. We're telling you these advice, but also take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a data point, and whatever you think fits for you, use it. Question it, challenge it, and also use it if it works. If it doesn't, that's fine. And then you're here with a library of tons of content here in the membership area. So go through the episodes and see which ones apply to you, and always do a bit more
research. And make checklists. Make like a million checklists. No kidding. Don't make checklists. Just take one piece of action towards something, and then if you realize actually this is not working for me, then throw it out and do something else. Because through movement is where you figure out if something is good for you or not.
Exactly. Which actually segues into our next rule, which is beautiful. You should never give up on any project.
Yes. This super awesome rule that everyone shares on social media too, and maybe I've shared it in the past and now I cringe about it a little bit, but it's the whole, you see it, like I see it visually even in front of me, never ever give up. Never ever give up. The biggest rule out there. And it stuffs people up. It stuffs them over. We're not going to swear too much here, but if I could, I would insert a lot of swear words here about it, because I see, especially I work with a lot of business owners, and I see some that come and they put a lot of money into a project, say an app, and they've never done an app before, but they put all their money, they take money from their parents, they mortgage their house, put all their money in. It's the worst app that I've ever seen. Potentially, I'm making this is a case study that I'm making up a little bit, but it's also probably a little bit real for some people. And they just keep going, even though they should probably, the fancy word in business lingo is pivot. They should probably pivot a little bit. So yes, give up. Sometimes you got to give up, but you never stop. You never stop. And I read, Nike, Phil Knight. Phil Knight is the founder of Nike Shoes. He's got an amazing biography that came out, I think, a few years ago. It's called The Shoe Dog. And I was just reading this recently, and he actually speaks a little bit about that. He said a similar thing. Sometimes you got to give up. He had a really hard journey with Nike shoes. It's brilliant, but he had to give up sometimes to do something a little bit differently, but he would never stop. So sometimes you got to give up, but just don't stop.
Yeah, and I'd like to speak to one of my stories, which is actually I had my own business. I was doing some real estate and stuff, and I actually it started draining me so much, and I actually went into call it a semi-depression caused by stress, etc. Got out of it quickly, but I had to give up the business, and my ego was the thing that was
The ego
most
yeah.
bruised.
I love that you bring that up.
Yeah, because
it's always the ego that comes in the way.
right?
Yeah,
And so like the reason I was not letting it go, I was like, I'm too proud. Like here I am, I'm an entrepreneur. How could I give up?
Yeah.
But then the next thing that happened is I ended up getting a career within the real estate environment, like flourished through it, and then it slowly guided me towards a path that I am now, and I'm happier than I've ever been.
Well, and you actually are one of these people that has a little bit of a gift to leave the ego behind. I can tell when I talk to you, which most people struggle with, and especially business owners. I spoke to a business owner the other day. He has a business that turns over about 15 million, and we were looking at all the different products that he has, that he sells. He was in the hair care industry, and one of his products is losing $900,000 every single year. So I said to him, hey, let's call him Johnny. Johnny, why are you not giving up this one product? And he said, because I feel like a failure. If people see me give up this product that's been in the market in Australia for like 15 years, if I give this product up, I look like a failure, and my ego is going to hurt. And this is normal. This is normal. So you sort of have to, I don't know what you did to overcome this, but you have to sort of sometimes just put the ego aside a little bit.
I had to have some real talks with some mentors, actually. I had to really...
Took their advice, didn't you?
I did, and I was happy I did, because I had to, like, I really analyzed that, and I said, you know what, this is not like... I started questioning, like, why did I become an entrepreneur? It was like, to get freedom, to get... Is it supposed to get tougher before? Yes, and like, I had a lot of these feelings happen, but in hindsight, I realized this was actually a really good decision. But what I was most happy about is I made a decision.
Yes.
And instead of just waiting it and keeping myself in that state of misery.
I love that.
Now, I want to change it since we talked about business. What about an example of where we don't want to give up, but it's not business related? Maybe it's like personal.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's definitely relationships, you know. A lot of relationships, and it doesn't just have to be romantic, but I definitely think a lot of people are staying in romantic relationships, and I've definitely done this in the past where I stayed in a romantic relationship maybe because it was just comfortable, or I wasn't bold enough to stand up and leave. But even with friends, you know, I think with friends this happens a lot, and it's something that I always struggled with all my life, because I'm sort of a people person, and I always wanted to just be friends with everyone, and I got really too busy to be friends with everyone, and some people weren't good for me, and so I had to be more bold and more brave to say no to some friendships, because you can't be friends with 100 people really closely. So it's something that you have to be bold enough to say, actually, this friendship is not so good for me. So then you just have to let it go.
So I'm going to ask you a bold question in return to that, because I've heard, you know, you're the sum of your 5 closest friends. You often hear you have toxic friends, you need to let them go. And maybe this is a rule for myself, so I'll ask it openly. I actually feel like I'm being selfish when I let go of friends that are like not doing as well, because I don't want them to be in my five person life. Is that selfish?
I think that is a selfish thing, and I actually think that is a whole rule. Again, the whole thing about you're the average of 5 people. Everyone says that. It's such a rule. It pisses me off a little bit, to be honest, because I don't believe in that. I believe that if someone is a toilet cleaner, say your best friend that you grew up with, he now has a career cleaning toilets. And now you say, hey, he's only earning, I don't know, $5 an hour somewhere. I don't want to be the average or have him as part of my average. That is so selfish.
Right.
And that is so bad, because maybe this guy is the kindest person you've ever met, and he is good for you. Unless this guy is toxic for you because he doesn't believe in your dreams, he takes you down, he wants you to be a toilet cleaner, then okay, that's maybe not the person you want to hang out with. But I have friends from my childhood that have a completely different past, that are now moms, stay-at-home moms, or that have different careers, that earn hardly anything. Am I going to let them go because it's going to lift my salary if I don't have them in my environment? That's such a rule. It actually makes me really grumpy. You can tell I'm getting worked up here. I know.
But I'm actually
because
really
it's not
happy.
fair. It's not fair. I think you don't judge people based on their career or how much money they have or what sort of background that they have. I think you choose based on do you add value to them? Do they add value to you? And with some of these friends, you will never have a business conversation like you would love to, but maybe you have a different kind of conversation.
So I'm so happy you said that, because you know, I have a lot of these high school friends. They're part of my heritage. I really love them, but every time I heard that, I was like, am I supposed to give up on them? And it felt so bad. So
I don't think you do at all.
Perfect. And so I actually want to open up a bit more on that and ask, just for the benefit, and even for myself, sometimes I don't even understand what is the definition of a toxic person.
You know what it is? I think, again, again, you define whatever you define for a toxic person. For me, a toxic person is someone that I spend time with and I leave after and I feel like I need to go have a nap.
Wow.
It takes away all the energy, and I usually have a lot of energy, so if somebody takes it away, it means it's very not so good. But also, so that's for me, that's from my personal definition is, do I leave this relationship or this interaction feeling really drained? But also for them, because maybe I feel really hyper, but maybe they feel drained. Then I'm not good for them, because it goes both ways. But also someone who doesn't believe in what you're doing, or someone who sort of tells you to play it smaller, or don't do it. It's like that's sort of toxic too. But it's again, make up your own
definition. Would you even see it as how you could call it, like either Debbie or Don Downer, like?
Debbie Downer, the Debbie Downer thing?
I wanted to use both genders, so I said Debbie and Don.
Yeah, because I only know this expression, the Debbie Downer, so the Don Downer, the Debbie Downers. Yeah, but there are a lot of Debbie and Don Downers that maybe that could be good for you. They're just in their own life, maybe they're going through a little bit of a downer thing, and that doesn't mean that you're going to ditch them.
Yeah.
Maybe you lift them up a little bit. But at the same time, maybe it doesn't totally drain you. But a good friend is someone who is here for this person, even if they have a little bit of a downer situation going on, because they'll come back out. So you can't just only judge it by moment, you sort of look at the whole journey. What sort of a friend is this? Is this a friend that I could call in the middle of the night and this person, this guy or girl, would come and save me from somewhere, from a situation? Is this someone that would stand up to me? I think that's more of the question. Even if sometimes they have a downer situation, what's the whole journey of this person? Yeah.
I want to go into the next rule because it's really fun.
Let's see what it is.
The rule is always be happy.
Yeah.
Can't be angry. You got to be happy.
No.
Smile all the time.
No. The purpose in life is to be happy, apparently.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I think that's a rule. I think it's a rule, but again, don't take my advice. I think it's a rule because people are very quick about, and I see these happy quotes on social media a lot, and it's okay. It's if that's how you think life is and purpose is to be happy, it's okay. Maybe that is your purpose. But at the same time, we can't ignore that sometimes you just don't want to be happy. Like, especially if you're like frustrated about something, it's like, just be happy. And then you see all these happy quotes, it almost gets you more frustrated.
Yeah.
So I do believe, and maybe this is something that I've learned from different mentors, it's not something that I came up with, you got to feel the feelings. So if you're feeling angry about something, maybe you're feeling angry about politics, and then somebody says, hey, just be happy and smile. Put a smile on there and just be happy. No, I'm angry. Right now I'm angry and I'm going to feel it or sadness.
Yeah.
And I've tried the sadness thing when my dad passed. I thought, I'm going to try and see if I can not be sad, because I'm normally not a sad person. That's not good for me. Because if I push that away, I'm like, no, I'm just not a sad person, so I'm going to try not to be sad. That's such bull. And then it caught up with me a little bit later. I'm like, no, actually, I'm so sad. I am so sad. And I can cry and I can be a loner for a bit and do my own thing and lose it a little bit. And I did for a bit. And then you sort of move through it. There's this 4 stages of grieving.
Yeah.
You sometimes try to ignore some of these stages to go to the end point,
skip.
But it doesn't work. So with all the feelings and happiness, I think you gotta allow yourself to feel other things. That the purpose in life, I think, is to feel, to have the ability to feel angry, feel sad, feel frustrated, feel ecstatic, feel in flow, feel real, anything, and you sort of allow yourself to move through those feelings.
And this one I think is so fun to challenge, because it's true. Like, every time I have a feeling that's not beautiful, perfect, happy, it bottles up, and then the more I try to keep up that image, let's say, and let's say because social media just makes everybody put on their filter and everything looks beautiful. You're trying to play a game of one-up with everyone else on social media.
Well, and even if you don't try to play the one-up game, you don't normally share a picture where you look really horrible and you say, I just had the worst something.
Yeah.
You just don't often, some people do that, but I don't, mainly also because I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I have downer days.
Yeah.
But then I'm just not going to share them. So that's why it looks like we're always happy, and it's like, oh, he's always happy. Jason is always so damn happy. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, it's true.
That's the problem.
But at the same time, you touch on the fact of posting those. I would say personally, I never post like if I'm having a hard day, I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
But I also find that there's some people that's like as soon as they're down, they go on social media to get the comfort from other people.
I guess that's another strategy. It's like sort of victim strategy, which is okay too.
Yeah.
I think whatever works for you.
Fair.
If we get the comfort from your Facebook friends, you do it. I don't do it because I don't want anyone else to give me comfort, but also because I don't want to share sort of these vibes.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to share real vibes, but not so much I'm really upset about something.
So what would be a way to kind of position this one? So the rule is always be happy is a rule. You have to feel a range. The moral of reality here, we're talking about let yourself feel the range of emotions.
And don't be bashing yourself up that you just can't feel happiness right now, because that's often the problem. It's like, hey, just be happy. And then you sort of go, why can't I be happy? Why can't I be happy? And then you sort of get more frustrated. So just don't worry about being happy right now, because maybe it will pass. And do something fun if you're not feeling it, do something fun for yourself. Find what lights your fire.
And give yourself a break sometimes, just be human.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to move to the next rule here. Oh, this one's really fun. Personal development is all about working on me, right?
Yeah, it's called personal, right? Yeah, I love this one. Now, personal development is great, and it's necessary, and you guys have a lot of amazing courses on this. I do think we can take it a level up, and I've done some research on this because impact. I'm a big believer in impact, and that's also what lights my fire, is impacting. So I thought, hey, how about I find some research on this rather than just talking about it and making up my own rules. I'm just going to find some research. And I found so much research on how when you get out of your own self and you stop focusing on yourself, me, and you go out there and you make an impact a little bit on someone, it has an even bigger impact on you than on the person that you impact. So there was a study coming out of, I think it was Boston University. And they did a study with a bunch of people where they said, okay, you guys are now going to go and make a little bit of an impact, and you guys won't. And then they measured the happiness levels, and the people that went out and made a little bit of an impact, it could be anything. It could be giving someone a compliment even. Could be, you made me this amazing green juice, the Wild Fit, and that's even that. I saw even, for me, the impact it had on me was huge. It was like, this is so generous, but I can guarantee the impact that it made on you, seeing me so happy, was bigger than the impact it made on me.
I did it for very selfish reasons. It makes me really happy to give generosity.
I could tell, because generosity begets generosity. And so the next level of personal development is really I coined this term, and I got the website too, called impactors. Impactors. And now I also call it being a ripple effector. So if we can sometimes just stop a little bit, stop the focus on me only, and try and be a little bit of a ripple effector every day. So make a little bit of a ripple effect. I see it like throwing a pebble in the pond. You make a ripple effect. So say you do this to me, you gave me the juice, it makes an effect on me, but makes you even happier. And then I will be happier, so I will maybe give a compliment to the gorgeous cameraman. And then he will go home and he will say something nice to his wife. I actually tried this because I'm doing experiments all the time. And I walked onto a bus in Sydney, and I thought, I'm just going to be an impactor, a ripple effector. And I try this whenever I can. Sometimes, I forget, which is a bit lame, but I sometimes forget to do these little acts. But I walked onto a bus, and the bus fare was $5 Australian. And I gave the guy $10, and I said, hey, buy the next person behind me, whoever comes on, a stranger, that ticket is already paid for. I just pay for 2 tickets. And then he looks at me, and he gives me back the $10, and I thought, oh, he doesn't want to play. And then he said, your fare is free.
Wow.
He just straight away, I was trying to make a ripple effect. He straight away was so happy that he had to give it back.
Wow.
He didn't want to even take my money, so I tried.
Instant ripple.
Yeah, because it's instant ripple. But then I know that this guy is going to go home and have the smile, hopefully still, when he walks into the door at home, rather than being grumpy, because, some bus passengers can be a little bit interesting. So the ripple effect is immediate. And again, for me, I'm like, wow, this guy just gave me a free ride. a ripple effect on me, which keeps going.
And it's not even about a big gesture. Sometimes just a little thing.
Yeah, little things, little compliment, like just even making someone a tea. I mean, Katja here, who is also on set, and Ellie, they keep topping up our waters. They make sure we look good. It's like little things. You know, you look fantastic, by the way.
You too. But here's the biggest thing is, like, we were talking about this and analyzing this brew here about personal development, and what we really wanted to tackle here and make sure you guys understand. If you want to make, let's say, work on yourself to be better, it's not always just about working on you, and let's use the word selfishly, is about being able to impact others selflessly.
Yes.
And when you do that, you end up actually finding yourself being in a better place emotionally as well.
I think it's the next level. Yeah. I think even if you just do a challenge, let's give them a challenge.
We should give them a challenge.
Let's
Maybe it's a system.
10 days. I got a system.
10 days.
10-day challenge. And what you do for the next 10 days, every single day, you're going to make a little bit of an impact. You can find some ideas if you do on my website, Impactors, but you can do anything. You could be buying someone a coffee. You could be, you guys at Mindvalley do this a lot. You could be coming to work, leaving a cupcake. Actually, Ellie loves cupcakes, so just put a cupcake onto her desk before she walks in, and don't tell where it came from. Do this stuff anonymously. Do this stuff anonymously, but do little things. Maybe you buy a flower for someone and drop it at their door. Maybe you call. You know, one of my challenges that I sort of tell myself that I do, and again, sometimes I forget, which again, I have no excuse to forget, is every single day I want to tell someone that I appreciate them.
Yes.
And I usually pick the people that are least expect it or that can't handle it. Like someone like that would be my brother. I send him a message sometimes and I say, I love you. And he's like, what's she on? Is she drunk? Is she? No, I'm completely sober. And, you know, but it's sort of, I know he can't handle it, but it will make him still smile. And he will be doing something nice for someone else.
So we do something like that. It's actually kind of a culture hack at Mindvalley. And what we did is actually a challenge, and I forget the name.
It's the week, isn't it? The whole week where you do the Secret Santa?
Well, no, this is actually the Love Week. You're
right.
The
Love Week, yes.
We do have the Love Week, but we did something recently, which was a 21 Days of Appreciation. And it's from, and I forget, it was the man who built the culture at Zappos, and I forget, Sean Aker.
Yes.
Sean Aker with the Happiness Advantage.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, I do remember things. And so what he did is he talked about a 21 challenge of appreciation. And so everyone in the company every day had to do an act of appreciation to someone else. And we did it for the 21 days, and it just brought the energy up in the company.
It's incredible.
And I'll say right now, as we're filming this, is some of the craziest times at Mindvalley. We're launching a university. We have this membership coming up. We have these new quests coming up. So it's like the most hectic times. But the fact that everybody was appreciating each other just made everyone operate on a level of energy I had never seen before.
It's that. You know, one other thing that we do that I think we should quickly share because it's a good practical thing for our audience. You can do this anywhere, even if you work for someone, whether you work in your own company or for someone else, and you guys do a variation of that. We do something called the Gratitude Circle. And every Friday, what we do, it's really empowering too. And again, here's the thing with gratitude. People give you all these gratitude exercises. Someone once told me, because when I do my own gratitude, it's in my head. When I fall asleep, I just go through a few things that I'm grateful for. Someone said, hey, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You got to write this stuff down. If you don't write it down, it's not working. I'm like, it seems to be working. I do it my own way. So do this stuff however you want it to do. Remember, take all advice with a grain of salt. But one thing that we do that has had a huge impact on my companies, every Friday we have a team lunch, and then we go around in a circle, and we have this gratitude rock that some client gave me. It's like an Aboriginal painted rock, and we just throw it at someone. Like I would throw it at Jason, not really at you, but you know, sort of like bang, gently. And then he would take it, and I would say, Jason, I just wanted to thank you for this week because you just looked after me so nicely when I was in Kuala Lumpur. And then you take your rock and you give it to someone else. You give it to Al, and you say, Al, thank you for your incredible camera work and always just being on time, and you just got your stuff together.
We're breaking the fourth wall here. Al is right behind the camera.
We have 3 dimensions here, 4 dimensions. And then Al would throw it at someone else. And we do this every week. And I remember in the very beginning, I actually got this from one of my friends, Joey. She told me about this. And I remember in the beginning, I forgot to do it once at lunch. And then some of my team came up, hey, we need to do the gratitude thing. So they actually want to do it.
Yeah.
They actually want to do it. And it's really quick.
I think I'm gonna bring this up. I think we're gonna do this. I think this will be fun. Yeah, I'm gonna do it with the events team.
Yes, do it. Yeah. And only don't go for too long because it can just go for too long. But just one person gets one gratitude from someone.
Wow.
But then usually, you know, let's say I gave it to Al, and then you go, oh, I wanted to give it to Al. Well, you find something else about someone. You say something about Katja. You're like, okay, I'm gonna give it to her, and you just find stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's something nice about every person.
This is true.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually going to add a variant to it, is that if you find yourself wanting to do this exercise and you're alone, throw it on a wall, catch it, and give yourself some gratitude.
Yeah, or just send us some messages. We take them too.
That's true. Go into the community.
Just Francisca, Jason, hey, we love you. Just send us like.
So just to wrap up, because we went on a little tangent, we're having a lot of fun here, as you guys can tell, but we went on a tangent. We forgot to give the 10-day challenge here.
Oh, the 10-day challenge. No, I already gave it basically. So for 10 days, you just do something nice to someone. And you can do it in secret, or you can do it publicly, but it can be by saying, I love you. Maybe on Monday you say, I love you to someone. Maybe on Tuesday you buy someone a coffee. You just already put it there. Or maybe on Wednesday you make a tea for someone in your office without them asking ever. Maybe on, what are we up, Thursday? On Thursday you hang out the washing that your partner put in the I was going to say in the dishwasher, in the washing machine. That was quite interesting. And then you hang that, you just do little things for 10 days.
10 days.
For 10 days.
All right, and what we'll do is we'll actually make note. We'll put that challenge as one of the things you need to do after you watch this episode. And if we go into the community, I'd love for you guys to share what is it that you guys decide to do for those 10 days.
Yes.
We'll be out and making some comments.
And you know what? In the course that is following after the interview, I'm also sharing another 10-day challenge, which is similar but different.
Perfect.
Same but different.
Same but different. You've been to Thailand. So I want to move to the next brew, because this one's huge as well, and a little controversial as well. The brew is, to live a happy life, I need to follow my passion.
Oh yeah, the passion trap.
The passion trap.
The passion trap. This is another one that gets me a little bit under my skin. Mainly because I do see, sort of, not just young people, but I do see a lot of young people also that work with me at Basic Bananas that sometimes fall into this trap, and I've fallen into it. And you did too.
Yep.
After, sort of, when you go to university, I think most people sort of, not most, but some go, oh, what now? What now? And I had this too. There are very, very few people that are born with this inherent passion that they know, hey, I'm going to be a musician, no matter what. And I have some friends that are.
Yeah.
And by the way, if I didn't count, if I went after the average rule, I would not be friends with my musician friends, because they don't earn any money. So does that mean that I'm not going to earn money? No. They're like some of the coolest people.
Yeah.
Going back to that rule about the average friends. So but they have this gift of passion, and that's what I learned from them. So there's this rule that you think you have to find your passion. You have to find your passion. And it's putting people a little bit sometimes into a hole. One of my team members recently, she just went through that. She's like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. She's only maybe 24, 25. I don't know. I just don't really like much. I just don't know. And she got really sad about it. So instead of just trying to find passion, I always say, bring passion. Bring passion.
I like that.
And I think there's actually a book that I sort of started reading a little bit and flicked through it that talks a little bit more about that, I believe. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore It.
Yeah.
Do you know that book?
I heard about it.
And I
haven't
think
read it,
it talks a little bit about that. So good they can't ignore it. So in a job, if you work somewhere and you just go every day and you go, I just don't like this job, try. Again, we can make it 10 days or 30 days or whatever. Some people say 21 days. Again,
Sure.
It's a total rule. It's, choose your own days,
Yeah.
maybe 10 days. Just bring passion.
Yeah.
Bring passion. And then passion sometimes finds you. I didn't wake up, or I wasn't born thinking, I'm going to run a few companies. That wasn't, or I'm going to do business strategy, or I'm going to do, yes, I just sort of, I always look at my life and I look at it like I was water. Water just flowing through things as it came, but I always brought passion when I could, and then suddenly my passion got found by being passionate.
And I want to touch on this because I actually have a bit of a pet peeve with this. And I've had some people that worked on my team, and they were in their early 20s, like 21 years old. And then basically a task needed to be done. They needed to actually compile a preparation sheet on a spreadsheet. Yeah. And they had to do some data entry. And this was a task that took about, maybe a 2 days task worth here. And the person basically had a meeting with me and said, you know what, I'm doing this and I realized this is not my passion. And I'm like, God. Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, and the person actually considered not wanting to work on the team anymore because they had to do this work that wasn't aligned with their passion.
It's also a generational thing. I definitely have a little bit of a thing about this too. It's a generational thing too, because I've had people too on my team that are, a little bit younger, and they do this. And I'm like, there will always be something in your life that you just don't want to do, but you just do it.
Yep.
You just do it.
So, I want to share a personal story of me because you were mentioning when I graduated, I also had that issue. Graduating university, everyone's saying, find your passion, you need to do that amazing thing. I almost ended up taking a management training program at Sherwin-Williams Paints to kind of own one of those franchises. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it just so happened that my sister was working for a real estate firm, and she said, hey, come for an interview and do some, and come and see if you want to work for this. And I ended up being put in a position where I had to just work on the phones for commission, which sounds probably the most horrible job to most people.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit horrible.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, I found my passion, but really it's just like, I realized I really liked sales. I loved it so much. And if I wouldn't have, if I would have said, you know what, I'm not going to go do telephone sales.
And people would have told you, right? Don't
do that. Yeah. It's just like, oh my God. And it was that action of going to do something, even though I didn't understand it, even though I didn't necessarily like it, I was able to go do it and discover what was it that I was great at.
Yeah.
And
I love that. You know what? Let's give them another little challenge here because we love to do tangibles here. Yeah, we love to put it to work. And again, you can do this or not, but this is my own experiment that I did. Let's call it the passion experiment. And what it was is I just picked an area in my life that I'm not passionate about, something that I sort of have to do, even though it's not really I do, but I sort of do, and I don't really like it. And one of these areas is cooking. I don't like cooking. It's boring. I'd rather read a book. So cooking for me is like, this is boring, but I would go into the kitchen because I want to eat and I want to eat healthy. So I go and cut the vegetables and like, this is annoying. I try to outsource it. You know, usually when my friends come for dinner, they know they're going to cook.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of dinner parties, but they always know they're cooking. I just have the stuff there and I'm like, okay guys, it's a cooking party. And then I put on the music and I do the entertainment and they cook. They know it. And I have also a lot of friends that bring me food because they know I don't like it. But then I said, hey, passion. Okay, I'm not bringing any passion to these vegetables. It's not really fair. Because they're cool, right? Vegetables are pretty cool. So I thought, okay, for the next sort of 10 days or 2 weeks, I'm going to be passionate about this cooking thing. And I did that. I just got into the kitchen, still turned up the music on my own and just sort of gave these vegetables a bit more love. And I wouldn't say I became a passionate cook. I still am not at all. But it made it a lot more fun. I became more passionate about this one thing. And you can do that too. So maybe take something in your life or even in your career, in your job, that you go, I don't like that. You told me something about numbers before.
Oh yeah.
You want to share that? Because that's sort of the same thing.
It's true. Right now it just so happens it's tax season. And like typically people always go, oh my God, I hate doing my taxes. Another case was the fact that I had to do this accounting work and actually reconcile all these statements through spreadsheets, which I had to dig in, and this was probably a 6-hour task of like deep focus, but I would never go and do it. And the reason was that I was always like saying, oh, I'm not a person to do that, etc. But then I said, you know what? No, I am the best at this. I'm going to crush it. And so I just decided to wear that hat, got my spreadsheet opens, and I just dove in, and just with that attitude, I got it done, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, and you didn't even probably hate it that much.
Time went by like this, but it was just a decision that I made that, hey, why don't I just turn up the heat and be bold about doing that small thing?
And you know, someone very early on when I was maybe 16, 17, I got my first phone job myself. So I was still in college, but I wanted to get a job so I can go traveling. And so I got this phone job every day, 3 hours after school. I had to, you know what I had to sell? I was living in Switzerland and I had to sell security systems, like locks and things, for a very safe country back then. So it was definitely not very fun. But so I had these 3 hours that I didn't really enjoy cold calling people. Hey, do you want an appointment with our security consultant? He will then sell you a bloody system that you probably don't need. I didn't say that. But I had these 3 hours that I didn't enjoy. But then someone in this company said, Franziska, just come in and be an actress. Just say, hey, today I'm Susie. I'm Susie, and I put on my glasses and I just pretend to be Susie for 3 hours acting, and I had so much fun and I sold so many appointments. It was unbelievable, but it's because I changed my mindset around this. I brought passion because I suddenly wasn't even Franziska anymore, because you get knocked back all the time too. So if Franziska gets knocked back, it's a little bit of a pain on the ego, but it's Susie. Susie doesn't care.
There you go.
Because she takes her glasses off after and she turns into Franziska. So that's another really good tip, I think.
It's so fun. So like we're doing this and we're talking about a lot of these personal growth things, and they seem sometimes so trivial. Like we talk about just these little things that we're doing.
Little tweaks, right?
My God, is it that makes all the difference about actually doing things that are bolder?
And I think it is. You know, there's this saying that I don't necessarily like, but the meaning is cool. Small hinges swing the big doors or something. Isn't that the saying?
Yeah.
And it's that, I think, with all these rules and with life in general, it's about finding these little tweaks. It's not, often people think, hey, I have to change everything. No. Just change one little tiny thing and it might just make the huge difference.
Beautiful. So what I want to do is I want to recap some of these rules before we actually move to this last segment of here where we're going to talk about the systems. And during the systems, we're actually going to give you some applicable ways that you can actually execute on being more bold and actually discovering what you should be doing. And you have some amazing content coming up. So before we get to that, I want to make a quick wrap up and I'm going to take the cheat sheet here. And I want to go back to the first one, which was don't take all advice. You want to be able to
filter, I guess.
Take it with a grain of salt, question every advice that you get and take the ones that work for you. And if they don't work for you, well, go to the next one because guess what? Never give up is also a rule.
Exactly.
Instead, don't stop. Just keep on the journey. You might have to give up on some things that don't longer serve you. Dump it. It's like a brule sometimes. Then always be happy. Let yourself feel a range of emotions, okay? So always be happy. Try to be positive, sure, but let yourself feel the range of emotions. Also, personal development, it's not always just about you. It's about other people. You will get so much more personal development out of being selfless and actually helping other people. And then finally, we talked about passion. It's not always just about follow your passion. It's about, you know, doing the little things that need to be done to make sure that you get one step closer to identify what you want to be doing. And so keep going forward. And sometimes you will have to do things that you don't feel totally passionate about, but it gets you closer to identifying what you should be doing.
I love it.
Did I miss anything here?
No, I think that's it.
I think we covered it.
I think we covered it. I think this is pretty cool. I'm going to watch this myself.
Of course you will. We'll watch it a few times. So now we're going to move over to the systems for living. So what we're going to be doing is actually separating this segment into specific episodes so you guys can go into the ones that are most relevant to you. So first off, we're actually going to be talking about perception. You have a system here.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, because I believe in perception so much, I wrote a whole book.
The plug.
About
Let's do
perception.
Guys, awesome book. I know you're giving us a copy, so I'm excited to be reading it. So tell us about the perception system.
So perception is, I believe, and that's why I wrote a whole book on this, is one of the fundamental, foundational pieces of being more bold and of being able to achieve anything that you choose to. Because perception creates reality. So what we're going to talk about in the course is two types of perceptions. Your own perception, how you perceive yourself, which we talked a little bit about today, and then also how others perceive you, which is going to be really fun to do.
So tell me, how will someone have a transformation after going through that episode?
I believe, so what sort of a transformation they will have?
Yeah, exactly.
I believe they will be able to align how they want to see themselves with how others are perceiving them, to just be more authentic in what they want. And there's a few questions. There's about 4 questions that I will share that will help them do that. And you just become more, you know, when you're aligned with yourself and you feel like you just, you know, sometimes you just feel you go through life and things are just flowing, like you look a little bit like you're flowing a lot. And I think it's because you have perception quite worked out.
I would think so.
I believe so.
It's true. I actually feel blessed every single day. Like luck is always on my side, and I genuinely feel that. So I think that when I go through this, it will be kind of a reconfirmation for.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
I think so.
So the next one, we're going to talk about this transformation stages. Tell us a bit more about that.
So the transformation cycle is something that I even still use myself now, and I shared a little story with you earlier about it. It's a cycle that you sort of use to become aware of your own stories in your head that are either working for you or not, are working against you. And so the first stage that we'll go through is that awareness phase. The second one is figuring out which stories are working and which ones are not, and then the ones that are not, we change them. And then action. So because all your stories in your life, they inspire a certain action. So if I believe I'm bold, so if I tell myself I'm a bold person, the actions that I will take here are completely different if I tell myself I'm not so bold. Let me give you an example. So growing up, I always thought I want to be a bold person. So I just told myself that story. I'm bold, I'm bold, I'm bold, I'm bold. Then something would happen, like I would go snowboarding with a bunch of friends. And then some of the guys would say, hey, let's jump off this cliff somewhere in the mountains. And I'm sitting there going, no, this is scary. And can't do this. And I'm like, no, story, bold, bold. And I even use it now. So then I would just do it.
Yeah.
Of course, making sure that I don't die. Usually it's like pretty safe.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. But even now, I use this story when I go surfing, and sometimes it's a little bit bigger than I'm used to. I would just sit in the surf and I would go, I'm brave, or I'm bold, or I'm courageous. Bang, bang, bang in my head. And then the action that I take is like, yeah, I'm paddling out. You know what? I'm paddling out. And then the third one, once you do enough of this action here, the fourth one actually, third is action. Fourth is your beliefs. So once you do enough of this here, it becomes a belief.
True.
So now I believe that I'm bold, even though I actually just had a story in my head earlier on.
So it's kind of like really taking it much more further than an affirmation,
Yeah.
right? Because an affirmation is just like a one thing, but here you're actually saying there's stages to it.
You got to take action on the affirmation. We'll go into more details, but
Perfect.
I still use it myself.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. And then you talk about bold, which is actually your third segment. So
Yes.
talk about bold.
Yeah. So there we're going to talk about 8 key ingredients that I've sort of identified to make someone more bold. And these are things that I believe in, and it's very much about lifting your standards. So how can you lift your own standards, but also how can you now use the segments that we've spoken about now and the first 2 segments, the perception and the cycle, to increase your impact. Because ultimately, that's really what it is all about, isn't it? To make an impact somehow, to leave a mark, to leave a legacy, whatever that means to you. So that's what we're going to share.
Beautiful. And what I love about this whole episode is actually, this was actually a bit of a trick. It was a facade. Because what we were talking about here is about being bold, which you're actually going to go through right in that episode about being bold is going to be the exact steps about being more bold.
Yeah.
Everything that we wanted to do in this episode here was actually to prepare you mentally about taking that action and understanding that being bold is going to make you a little uncomfortable and is going to bring up a lot of the rules, and you're going to have to look at other beliefs you're going to have to challenge, and you're going to have do some transformation.
I'm so excited.
So it's so cool.
I'm so excited.
With that, you know what? I've actually made a bold change to our format to the interview. Do you realize?
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you the first question.
Tell me that. I like that we're changing this
I
up.
know.
Let's
We were a little bold, and we're asking the first question at the end. So
I love it.
before I ask you the question, we're actually going to close it off, and this will be the final statement. So I wanted to say big thank you for being on the show with us. I hope you guys had a ton of content. In these episodes that you're going to see following this is going to be very specific, actionable systems for living that you can apply and is going to make some massive change in your life. And did you want to add anything before I ask you the last minute question?
All I want to add is just take what you can use out of any advice that you get and apply something, and then trust yourself and do it your own way.
Beautiful. So let me ask you, Francesca, what gets you up in the morning?
So he told me not to say coffee.
Not coffee.
I don't drink coffee, so that's a good thing. Really, you know what? This is something that I have to tell you this because this will help someone. I always thought, what's my purpose? And then when I was working in advertising, when I was building my own businesses, I'm like, but what's my purpose? And I sort of, am I not even living my purpose? Because I wasn't so sure. It's the whole passion purpose trap that I was in. And then suddenly I realized, you know what? My purpose and what I'm really good at is putting a smile onto someone's face. It's that simple. And so now I look back, I'm like, wait a second, but you can do this any sort of way. Again, it's back to the passion thing. I can put a smile on my face if I was cleaning a bathroom. I can make someone smile. If I'm a business leader, I can do that. If I'm out with a friend, I can do that. And that's what gets me up in the morning, is knowing that today, when I wake up, I will put a smile on someone's face.
Beautiful.
So that's pretty much what gets me. It's what gets me going.
And so if you guys can find yourself that one thing that gets you up in the morning, I think that's one of the most beautiful ones I've heard. Put a smile on somebody's face, you've made a good day.
Exactly.
That's a great way to finish
and
this
you know
session.
what? I want to quickly add one thing before we finish it, because this is so simple that my mission is accomplished when I go to a restaurant. And now, again, this is a story that I told myself that became a belief. I know that this is my purpose now, making someone smile. So when I go to a restaurant sometimes, how easy is it for me to just write a little note for the waitress and say, this was amazing, thank you so much. It takes less than 1 minute. She walks away, it puts a smile on her face.
Yeah.
Most likely. So it's a very simple mission, and finding a purpose can be that simple.
It can be. And so thanks again for being on the show. Guys, go into the content episodes. There's some amazing systems you guys can put into your lives, and this was amazing, so thanks again.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for doing this also.
It was a pleasure.